Welcome to yet another episode of Meet the Makers. Today we look at a very peculiar style of art form, a mainly Japanese art form called manga. And we're meeting the maker who's mainly known for a webcomic, a manga style webcomic rather, known as Beast Legion. And today we're in the belly of the beast, and we're so glad to meet Mr. Jazil Homowazir. Thank you for coming on our show.
Nice meeting you, Parth.
So right off the bat, I just wanted to know about what brought you closer to this kind of genre.
Right. So as I've mentioned before, I've been a huge He-Man fan, and He-Man, Thundercats, 80s cartoons basically have always inspired me. But I actually started thinking seriously about Beast Legion after I watched an anime called Naruto, which is...
I've watched that.
Yeah,
my personal favorite.
It's amazing. I mean, it gives me a lot of inspiration to test new things out, it's kind of a life lesson for me, that anime. And that's actually the reason why I got into animation as well.
Okay.
So,
and at what age did you start drawing, or did you start with drawing, sketching?
So I've been drawing since I was a kid, probably 6, not very good, but then I was better than most kids in school.
So you started at a very tender age, as I know, and you showed me a lot of comics with childlike enthusiasm. So I know this guy is really passionate about this kind of art form. So I just wanted to know what spurred on this interest in this distinct form, manga.
So funny stories, I did my BSc IT in 2007. Then I did a few courses in animation just to get a know of how to use the softwares and stuff. And after that, it's 2010 when I started started actually drawing the Beast Legion, and released the first chapter in July of 2010.
All right.
So, and after that, it's just been like luck has just sprung up on me, and Beast Legion won the award for the best webcomic at Comic-Con India 2012.
Yeah.
And that's when things got really interesting, because I started getting a lot of work in the field of art, character design.
Would you say that Beast Legion was that one such comic which catapulted you into...
Absolutely, and it was a gamble, because I almost spent a year doing nothing and just working on this comic.
Well, I hope even your Beast Legion pet project materializes into reality.
Very
well, how far has it gone, if I can ask and take the liberty to ask that question?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So right now in print we have around 11 chapters. And they come in sets, come in volumes, four comics in each volume. And the third volume has like 3 chapters, but one of the chapters is a double-sized chapter, so kind of forms into one. And online we have like 14 chapters ongoing, and I've already penned out 17 chapters.
Correct.
So it's going really well. There's no plan of stopping it anytime. But I have a clear picture in mind of where I want to take this concept, like around 52 episodes.
Yeah. And the future you've envisaged for Beast Legion, that is something going on parallel. But what do you mainly do, which kind of counts as your occupation?
So I work as an animation professional in the field of 2D animation. Mostly the projects I get are storyboarding, character designing, and also I'm working on at present, I'm working on a comic called The Song of Heroes, which just released in America.
We did get a glimpse
Yes.
of. And
And so that's been a really interesting learning curve, because it's not exactly a manga style comic. It's more in the normal range of fantasy adventure. And yeah, I've been designing so many characters. I've designed over 30 characters for this particular Song of Heroes series.
Over 30 characters,
Yeah.
and I'd like to talk about this character part that he's mainly into. I think he has a thing for creating a lot of monsters.
Monsters,
right?
absolutely. Monsters for the win.
And monstrosity of the characters that he's built, I've seen that they're completely outlandish. I've seen this so wonderfully done. What makes you want to draw so many monsters? Why not your normal human beings?
I draw normal human beings. I draw a normal human being.
Okay.
But monsters are something that's always impressed me from the days of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man. So I think it just comes naturally. It's not like I'm inclined, but yeah, I usually get more work creating monsters, creatures and stuff like that, which is I find really interesting. And
I mean, I've
it
seen,
works out.
He speaks of He-Man, and I've seen so many memorabilias and action figures.
Yeah.
I mean, lying in the corner and are
I have a huge collection.
Yeah, there's a huge collection he has.
What you see is just like a small fragment of
Why
it.
just He-Man? What piqued you? What piqued your interest about He-Man?
I've grown up with He-Man around me, basically. Even, I mean,
So if you had
He-Man
to choose
was in
between
my house
Naruto
before.
and He-Man, what would it be?
Ouch, that's a very tough question. I can't answer. I mean, when it comes to inspiration, Naruto. But when it comes to my childhood attachment, it's always He-Man.
Okay.
I mean, so when it comes to figures, He-Man takes precedence.
All right. So we have He-Man as the winner, if we can say that, because
But what is to say that?
He-Man
But yeah,
action
fine.
figures outnumber the Naruto ones.
Absolutely.
That's evident and apparent
Absolutely.
from what we
Absolutely.
see. I mean, the story of He-Man also. Is there a moral to it? Is there a message that
like in the
particularly
80s, every
is closer
episode
to
used to have a moral. The 2000X was more story based. The
Correct.
2000X series. But yeah,
And how much of your work is inspired by the things you saw in your childhood?
a lot. I mean, a lot. I mean, if you see Beast Legion, you'll instantly get a Thundercats He-Man vibe from it. But at the same time, it's anime style, so it separates that. And of course, the story is something very different, but it'll still give you a vibe of the 80s shows that people loved.
Yeah, and we'd like to get more of that vibe. So I'll grab a copy if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
And the very recent work that he's done, I think, in collaboration with some of the international artists, right? So in getting into that avenue, has the work, has that kind of occupation flourished in the recent past?
The problem is the credit part. You rarely get credit for the work you do because, see, the way it works is the project comes from abroad to a studio. A studio then hires another studio to do part of the work, another studio to do the another part of the work, and they basically cannot reveal that they are outsourcing to other studios.
Correct.
So,
and would you happen to know how many people are reading and are big fans of that novel, which you don't get, of course, you don't get credit for that, which is very sad. But are you able to see the wood for the trees? Do you know how many people are reading it?
It's not a novel, I'm talking about an animation project.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's done very well.
Okay.
It's done very well. It's an online show. I wish I could name it,
Yeah.
but...
All right. Well, talk about Song of Heroes for a second.
Song of Heroes. Song of Heroes is great. I mean, Song of Heroes, Patrick and I are very close to each other. We, exchange ideas. If I feel something is missing, I give him my inputs. I change the comic panels sometimes.
Yeah.
I will show you a few examples.
And how rewarding is this profession? I mean, the times before it may not have been as rewarding because we did not have the boom of globalization.
Absolutely, and the internet.
And the internet, of course. The social media has played a huge part in this being disseminated all over the world, across countries, across the board. So how has that helped? And how are you able to establish contact with them?
I started my contact building with He-Man.org, obviously, because I was a huge fan. And
that goes without saying.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it?
And after that, it's just, I've been getting work one after another. I post my work on DeviantArt, I post my work on ArtStation. I'm very active on Instagram.
Okay.
So some or the other work keeps coming up.
Of course, that brings me to another question about the animation scene in India and what kids get to see, and the quality and sophistication of that sort of animation. Are we getting somewhere with it, or are we still a long way to go?
We are getting somewhere with it. The problem is there are a lot of shortcuts used to get to the animation. If we want to move ahead in the global scale of things, I seriously feel like production houses need to put in money for shows, for animated content. With Netflix and Amazon Prime coming in, the possibilities are starting to grow for the Indian animation sector. At least that's what I believe.
All right.
Hopefully, even I'm actually hopeful.
Would you say that's the flickering light at the end of the tunnel? That you are now able to see that things could go in the right direction?
Absolutely.
Which previously looked very bleak, right?
Yeah. There have been shows that have shone.
Yeah.
For its demographic. So there's no complaints there. But then if we have to move up the ladder, I think we have to look at Netflix or Amazon investing a little in India for Indian animation. That's a very harsh reality, but it's true.
Well, keeping the nitty-gritties and technicalities aside, what about the originality and the story concept? Just from the point of view, of course, the story does not demand, presupposes a lot of budget. Story is your own. How good are Indian stories? What do you have to say?
Ouch, that's putting me in a very tight position.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
It's fine. Yeah. But I have to answer that because we basically, focus on one-shots, small episodes. So there's very little room for growth of character development. Which is very prominent, especially in the Japanese manga, because they are long-form stories. Every character has a chance to develop. It's not just the hero.
So what do you imagine is the future of Indian animation?
My basic focus is content, the animation quality, which I think we are moving backwards. Honestly, we are going into cutout animation, which basically creates a character and the several paths, and then you just have to move the paths. It makes for an easy animation, but it still doesn't gel. At least even when I entered into a contract with RD and Friends, I was very clear that I would do traditional animation for them. So I wanted people, because traditional animation was people connect with.
Well, speaking of the relatability quotient, see, certain kind of work appeals to a certain demographic. So
Absolutely.
If there's a kids show, then it'll only appeal to kids show.
Yeah.
But then there were 90s when we witnessed such an amazing breadth of projects, like Courage the Cowardly Show, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and then we had Captain Planet, we had the Cartoon Network was just steaming with
content. And we've forgotten that. I feel even America has forgotten that phase of animation.
Correct. Now we have Augie and Cockroach. I mean, with all due respect to that. But what sort of research and development is going into only focusing on kids' content and not making it just as relatable
for a general audience?
That's
why I'm saying that's where Netflix and Amazon Prime are now changing the game. I feel personally. I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm just saying because I'm excited at the possibilities. I hope we get more animation content. In fact, I would love to pitch Beast Legion to Netflix at some point. I'm telling you, story is the main factor. And the way the characters develop throughout the series, how a kid relates to Naruto, how I related to Naruto. I feel even Captain Planet, you gave a very good example of Captain Planet. Captain Planet had some of the most complex drawn characters, and yet every episode had a certain moral going on with it.
Do you think we're undermining the intelligence of the kids and actually just regressing to infantilism?
I won't call it regressing. I mean, everybody, at the end of the day, everyone wants a successful show for their studio.
A commercially successful show.
I guess nobody wants to take that big risk.
Beast Legion is now a manga-styled webcomic. But do you think there's a future in terms of it being converted into an animation?
I'm hoping there's a future. See, if I want to see this turned into an anime, I want to see it turned into an authentic anime, probably animated in Japan.
And now that you know it has found resonance amongst the masses.
Absolutely. I had no clear intention of making it a webcomic. I had created it as a pitch.
Okay.
So some people know what's going on. I don't have to explain too much. So Beast Legion has its own site. It's www.thebeastlegion.com. You can read it at any time. So my Instagram ID, I can just show you my name tag and you can scan it, and it's jizzleh.art. I would love to see us get together and create at least something, maybe even if it's 15 minutes, that'll blow people's mind away.
Correct.
If you're going into anime, I think you have to go with a general audience, not just stick to one demographic.
Correct. Jazzil, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Parth.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, as we learned a lot about the distinct style of animation. Do check out our other YouTube videos on the animationexpress.com as we talk to industry veterans from around the AVGC industry. This is Parth Kaushik signing off with camera person Amoy Mehta.